What's going on? It's the Rap Nerd, and with Fast X just dropping, what better time than to rank the franchise? Everybody else is doing it, so I figured I would jump in on all the fun. And let me start by the disclaimer. This is just my list. If your list does not match mine, this is no disrespect to you. This is not a slam dunk on you and what you think. This is just my opinion. Always gotta say that first so people don't get crazy in the comments, So that being said, let's go ahead and get started. At the bottom of the list, at number 11, I have Fast 9. I literally just watched this sometime last week in preparation for Fast 10, and I don't like this movie at all. I'm gonna be real. I don't like it. I think this movie took the ridiculousness to such a level that it just felt like it felt disrespectful as a fan of the franchise. The whole thing with Han coming back, it was just like I was expecting some type of explanation, but it just kind of was like, hey, we tricked him and you faked your death and that's it, and nothing else. The absurdity was to like high levels that have never been reached in the franchise. I mean, strapping Back to the Future rocket on a car and sending it to space, it was just ridiculous. I didn't like much of anything from the film. I mean, even John Cena being Dom's half brother is just like, what? You know what I mean? Like, and I get he's half brother, and they even call it out like, your ancestry is white pretty much, but it's just like, no. So I had that at number 11. Moving up to number 10, I have Fast 8. This movie was okay. I didn't hate it, didn't love it. I think it was the next step to try and do more than 7, so I see what they were going for. I actually liked Charlize's character. I forgot what her name is as the villain, but I actually do like her as the villain, and I like the way that she set everything up and put Dom against the team, and I think bringing in his past and using that to blackmail Dom was a cool move, I think, In this movie, again, the ridiculousness was up there. I mean, Rock being able to slide on the ice as this tank is going 70 miles an hour with bare boots, and he's able to grab the torpedo and sling it. Like, it's a bit crazy, but it's still toned down from 9, and I actually can watch this again. I don't really mind it, but not my favorite at all, so I have to put it at this spot, number 10. Moving up at number 9, I have Hobbs and Shaw. I thought this one was cool. It's a fun movie. It's pretty much, it's like the most action movie of the action movies, because since it's about two different characters who weren't introduced via like car driving, they kind of had the liberties to just make it a blockbuster, shoot 'em up, muscles, high testosterone punch fest of a film. Having Idris, The Rock, Jason Statham, and their world. So it's a fun watch. It's definitely one that you can kind of like let your brain take a backseat, and you're just watching for all of the bells and whistles, the explosions and stunts. So it does deliver on that, so I have it at number 9. So at number 8, I have Fast 7. I think this was when the absurdity really like scaled up quite a bit, when we were jumping from building to building in Lamborghinis. This is the film that turned Dom into like some type of superhero where he was able to lift cars. I was just like, what? He stomping the ground and it broke. Like, this is kind of the movie where I was like, okay, all right. I think the ship kind of sailed with this movie, I'm not gonna front, because I didn't even watch 8 or 9 because of this film. For one, with Paul Walker's passing out, I was like, I can't return back to that franchise at this time without him. And then 2, that was ridiculous as hell. Like, I just couldn't fathom that, because I've been a person to watch Fast and the Furious from the start, so to see that moment happen, it was just like, when did we start getting superpowers? Like, what? At number 7, I have Fast X. I just did my review on it. I thought it was pretty good. I think Momoa being the villain really put this movie above all of those. Like, without him, this movie would just kind of blend in with the rest of them before it, and they wouldn't have tipped the scale at all. But he was a big factor. He almost felt like the Joker, but a physical Joker who you believed everything about him. And I think, again, his presence is what made the movie work so well. It doesn't do it without him. And I like that they kind of reeled it back from 9 and still kept the absurdity, but it was a grounded, believable absurdity rather than like what we saw in 9. So I really enjoyed that. I liked seeing these mini stories. The movie start as like one story, and we break off to pieces of going with this group, going with this group, going with that group. Really enjoyed that. A lot of people don't like that, but I feel like it it makes for a more epic journey and adventure when you have different portions of the film going on. So I really liked it for what it was, man. It reeled me back in and got me back on the bandwagon, really, to the Fast and Furious franchise, and I'm looking forward to like the next two that come. And now I want to rewatch the other ones just because of this one. So at number 7, I have Fast X. At number 6, I have Fast 6. I don't know what the temperature is for this movie with most fans of the franchise. I don't really hear people talk about it that much. It kind of gets lost, but I really enjoy Fast 6. This was the film that added something different to what we already had. Like prior to this movie, we didn't have like really stylistic hand-to-hand action. Like it was people fighting, but it was just regularly what you saw. But this one had some really good action sequences, like between Michelle and I forgot the actress's name, Gina. Their fight scene, like in the train, and even the third act on the plane, like the fighting got a little bit more stylized. And this is the movie that pumped that into this franchise to kind of take it up a notch as an action film, opposed to just being cars. Because we kind of skipped past being more than just racing and the movies prior to that. But this one really doubled down and added that fist hand-to-hand stylish form of fighting that I really enjoyed. So I have number 6 at number 6, ironically. At number 5, I have Tokyo Drift. Now, a lot of people that I've seen do rankings, they always have Tokyo Drift as like the worst or whatever, but I'm not gonna lie. This movie is fun as hell. It's nostalgic for me. I remember going to see this movie in theaters when I was in high school. No, I think I just may have graduated. I forgot what year it released, but it's so of the time. I think a lot of people felt duped because they thought it was gonna be a branch off somehow of the original ones, but it being different. They were like, what the hell is this? I liked it though. It also have a small bias because I love Tokyo. Never been, but I want to go. But I used to be obsessed with Tokyo. Still kind of am, for real. But as a kid, I used to go to the library and rent this book. It was like a Tokyo landscape book, and it would just go through many streets and all of that and show the architecture and buildings of Tokyo. So that backdrop definitely made it a plus for me. I love that. And then this whole different aspect of drifting, because I didn't know what drifting was before I saw that movie, really. So that was an eye-opener to me. I was like, oh, this is cool. I like the character dynamic between Bow Wow, Han, and I forgot the other country boy's name. I did forgot his name, but I love their dynamic of Bow Wow's already been there, and he's kind of like working the streets. He's kind of like this nerd guy, and then you got this new dude who's like a fish out of water from the country, and everyone's kind of just running game on him and not paying him respect. And then you have Han, who's like the OG, who teaches him how to drive. And I thought it was great, man. I enjoy it, still do. So at number 5, I have Tokyo Drift. At number 4, I have Fast 4. I think that this movie made the franchise change to something different than just street racing. Like, this is the one that did it. Because when you watch this movie, it feels more like an action thriller, almost undercover cop movie in a sense, because you have Brian, who has now leaned all the way into being FBI, and he has the suit, and it's just clear that him and Dom aren't tight like they used to be, especially after the first film, and they have to come back together to go after this even crazier boss. And I think that the stakes are raised even high. I really enjoyed this one, man. Like it just felt different. This solidified this as being more than Cars. I think this movie did that. I like the villains in this. I like how you have the head villain and you have the other man. I forgot what his name is, but he was the physical force of the movie, and he gave Dom and everybody else a run for their money. So really enjoyed that movie, and I have that at number 4. At number 2, I have Too Fast, Too Furious. The introduction to Roman Pierce. It was a buddy cop, not really a cop, but a buddy journey film with Roman and Brian. And man, I love this movie. It is so of the time. I mean, the joint starts with David Banner. It didn't get harder than that. I feel like adding Roman and being so successful with backstory and connecting him with Brian, it opened the door for the franchise to throw other characters in there with connections and build upon them. We wouldn't have all these other characters had it not been for Roman Pierce. And I can't forget the inclusion of Ted, Ludacris's character, which is really funny because in this film, he literally just came off as like a cameo and a side character. So it was cool to see that he left such an impact on this film to where he could be in more of the films later, and now he's a staple character that we all know and associate with Fast and Furious franchise. So again, of the times, I mean, the fashion, the music, the clothes. This film spoke to me the most. It felt like of the cloth of me and the quote unquote urban community. And it makes sense because John Singleton directed. You know, he's the man. He doesn't get enough credit for the shit that he does, and his direction is what really made this film work so much. So at number 3, I have Too Fast, Too Furious. At number 2, I have the original Fast and Furious. I mean, come on, we all know about this film. When it first hit, it was a phenomenon, you know, drag racing and racing in the streets, and it had this underbelly of like some crime aspects to it, because I mean, street racing in general is illegal, and I think this movie took a deep dive into why drag racing is illegal and the underworld that comes with drag racing, because it goes deep. You know, you have Brian, who's an undercover cop, and Dom, who kind of runs that world. You see how dangerous this shit can get. That's one thing about this movie I like a lot, is the real world danger is the most it's ever been throughout the franchise here. It's the most grounded, it's the most realistic, and you're on edge because you don't know what can happen, especially the third act when the drive-by happens. That's some shit that just takes it up a whole different level, and it's like, oh, like this is some real like street shit like that nobody else is really used to. You know, of course there's people within that world, they know about it, but somebody like me, I didn't know shit like that happened within the drag racing, street racing world. And what's cool about it is, where I'm from, Columbus, South Carolina, back in those days, we had a really big street race, like under like world where I lived at. Like if you were to go out late at night in a certain area, there would be cars parked just like Fast and Furious. That's why it was so cool to see that. I don't know if Fast and Furious, you know, made that happen for us or it was already there. I can't really put 2 and 2 together as far as timing, but that culture was there. So having this movie, it just opened my eyes like, oh, is that type of shit that goes down, like for real? So undeniable classic, you know, Dom, the birth of Dom, the birth of Letty, the birth of Brian, and you know, just this whole family aspect happened at the house. You just see everything. Great film. So I have Fast and Furious at number 2. Now at the number 1 spot, I have Fast 5. I think this was the best combination of, like, I don't even know how to, like this was like the Avengers movie of the Fast franchise. Like this is the first one that brought the whole team together, and to see these different worlds that have been crafted come together was just so dope. You know, I'm a fan of a bunch of moving parts to come to one for this big blowout of a third act. You know, you get to see Dom back together. You should get to see Dom and Brian's come together to figure out what's going on, and then they're discussing how to take down Braga, and they're like, we need a team, and they're discussing what to do, and they're like, well, we need a bullshitter, somebody who could talk his way out of everything. And Brian's just like, I know a guy. To see him go get Roman and, you know, dealing with Tej, and oh, I remember watching it in theaters like, this movie is off the goddamn chain. Like, damn, this is good. And then you throw The Rock in there as being like this unstoppable force that was going after Dom no matter what. Like I said, this is the Avengers of the Fast franchise, you know. The original one that got it all started to let us know that this world can be bigger than what we thought it started out as, you know, way bigger. I mean, everything here goes hard. The action, the choreography, the soundtrack, the character moment. Brian finding out he's having a kid with, I forgot her name, but you know, Dom's sister, and them, it just, the sense of family that just really, the root of it has grown comical now, but since the first one, this is the next one to me that really honed in on that family aspect, and it just worked so well. All the inclusions of the new characters, them being in Brazil, the most epic moment when when Dom was talking to Hobbs, Brazil. So once again, that's my list. No disrespect to anyone, not dunking on anyone's list, it's just my opinion. Let me know what your list is in the comments. And if you like this kind of content, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you already are subscribed, thank you. And until next time, peace. RapNerd Productions, no capping, that's word to mommy.